Hello, everyone. This is Miss Firth, and I am here to read you a story today. It's called The First Dog, and it's written and illustrated by Jan Brett. You might be familiar with some of Jan Brett's other books, The Mitten, The Hat, um, and there are many more. This particular book was a selection with Reading Rainbow, if you're familiar with them. And this is one of her first books. It was written in 1988. And I am reading it today with the permission from Harcourt Brace Jovanovich Publishers. Now, I want to give you a little background of when this book takes place. So here it talks about that between 35,000 years ago and 12,000 years ago, as the last of the great glaciers of the Pliocene advanced and retreated over the grasslands of Europe and the New World, that was what we call an era, and it was after the dinosaurs. People like ourselves, we were called Homo sapiens, began to flourish, meaning that there were more and more Homo sapiens or humans around on the earth. Hunters and gatherers, they wore clothes made of animal skins, had shell and bone ornaments, and used such tools as spears and knives. They made music and were prolific artists, meaning they did a lot of artwork. This was a time of exceptional artistic achievement and technological advance. Technology meaning the tools that they used. And it may have been during this period that the first wild animals were domesticated. So when we say the first wild animals, we're talking about animals that we have like um, those are the ones that are in the wild, but domesticated are the ones like the cats and the dogs, or even the cows and different animals that we have as pets or farm animals. So let's read The First Dog, written and illustrated by Jan Brett. Long, long ago, in the great days of the Pliocene, Kip, the cave boy, bounded down the trail on his way home. He avoided the aurochs, the cave bears, and the megaceros. So here, these would be the aurochs, and this would be the maceros, and the mighty mammoth. So here, let me show you the pictures. He marched on until he saw a great rock. It was a good place to stop and rest. Kip reached in his bag for a woolly rhino rib, still sweet and smoky from the fire. Suddenly up popped a paleo wolf looking for leftovers. Wolf's nose began to twitch and sniff. He sniffed to the left and he sniffed to the right. "What are you doing?" teased Kip. "What can you smell in this emptiness?" Paleo Wolf held his snout high in the air. With his keen nose, he could smell a rain cloud across the valley, the track of a tiny toad, the pelt of a prying pachyderm. But most of all, he could smell roasted woolly rhino bones, and he gave a hungry whine. "Pooh," said Kip, "I can't smell anything but my dinner, and it is all for me." And he turned his back on Wolf. But Paleo Wolf had already hurried away, and when Kip saw the reason why, he was just able to get away himself. So that pachyderm he smelled was the woolly mammoth. Yep. Soon, Kip was back on the homeward trail. He walked on and on until he spied a cave. It was a fine place to stop and rest. He thought about another rhino rib, still crackly and crunchy from the fire. Up popped Paleo Wolf looking for leftovers. Wolf's ear began to turn and dip. He listened to the left and he listened to the right. "What are you doing?" mocked Kip, taking a big bite. "What can you hear in the silence?" Wolf cocked his head with his fine canine ears. He could hear a fish in the river, a leaf fall, the soft pant, pant, pant of a cave bear. But most of all, he could hear the snap of woolly rhino bones, still crisp from the fire, and he gave a pleading howl. "Pooh," said Kip. "I can't hear anything except my teeth crunching on these very tasty bones." And he threw a clump of moss at the Paleo Wolf. But Paleo Wolf had already hurried away, and when Kip saw the reason why, he was just able to get away in time. Yep, there's that cave bear. Came out to see them. Soon, Kip was back on the homeward trail, more footsore and weary than ever. He trudged on and on until he saw a big tree. It was just the place to stop and rest. He climbed the tree and reached for a woolly rhino rib, still pearly and greasy from the fire. Up popped Paleo Wolf, looking for leftovers. Wolf's eyes began to sparkle and dance. He looked to the left and he looked to the right. "What are you doing?" jeered Kip. "What can you see in this darkness?" Wolf's eyes glowered. With his sharp eyes he could see the shimmer of a distant drop of dew, a mouse scurrying far away, a feline sleeping high above. A feline is a type of cat. But most of all, he could see a pearly, greasy morsel of rhino bone shining in the moonlight, and he licked his lips. "Pooh," said Kip. "I can't see anything, except, of course, my rhino ribs. And you won't be getting that. You won't be tasting that, because I want it all to myself." Then Kip yelled, "Shoo!" as loud as he could. The yell resounded up and down the tree. It woke every living thing around. Instantly, Paleo Wolf's nose wrinkled and his eyes went back. His eyes narrowed and his tail stood out. He looked so terrible that Kip threw the whole bag of rhino ribs down from the tree. "Help yourself, Wolfie." But Paleo Wolf did not care about dinner now. His mane bristled and ridged down his back. A long growl shook from his throat. It was his last warning. Kip opened his eyes very wide. He looked all around, but he could not smell or hear or see anything. He whispered, "What do you know, Wise Wolf?" But Paleo Wolf was gone. "There is great danger here," thought Kip. "I must disappear too." and he shrank into the leafy branches and made himself very small. Just in time, for high in the tree was the most fearsome of creatures, the saber-toothed cat. She crouched, she snarled, and then she sprang. She hurtled past Kip, hidden in the leaves, and pounced on the pile of woolly rhino bones down below. Good thing he had thrown those bones down, huh? All that night, as he sat in the tree, Kip thought and thought. He shivered over Paleo Wolf's last warning. It had not come 1 second too soon. The next morning, Kip climbed down. There was Paleo Wolf looking for leftovers. Together they looked at the spot where the bones had been, and they were very gloomy. Finally, Kip made a speech. He said, "Wolfie, if you will use your keen nose and your fine ears and your sharp eyes to keep me from being eaten up, I promise to share with you all the woolly rhino ribs and even mammoth meat that I cook over my fire." Paleo Wolf barked, meaning yes, and then he wagged his tail, the very first wolf to do so. When Kip saw that, he cried, "And I will call you Dog," which means one who wags his tail. Then Kip and the cave boy and the first dog went home. All right. So, what do you think? Do you think that's a true story? It sounds like it could be, doesn't it? But Jan Brett made it up. It was her version. But let's think about it. Wolves and dogs, are they related? They are. Wolves and dogs are related. They all came from the old prehistoric wolves, and they're called all what's called the genus Canis. But there are many differences, and the wolves are not domesticated. They're very wild, so you want to stay away from them. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you again soon. Bye.